Hello, welcome back. I'm Easy B. Thanks for watching Easy B Tactical. If you're new to the channel, I release a video every week around firearms. This particular video has been a long time coming. I should have started with this when I started doing firearms into this channel, because this is going to be about the basics around firearms. I'm going to try to cover what is a firearm, different type of firearm overall, calibers, ammunition, and then some terminology. I hope to make this a series where we can then deep dive into handguns and rifles and more specific interests, because I still get questions around guns or firearms when I'm at the range or through the messages, and I realize that sometimes, even for myself, there are some basic foundations where I was either wrong or ignorant about. So hopefully this helps you. If you already know all about firearms, maybe you can use this to refer your friends or family when they have questions around topics that you're tired of answering. So check it out and let's get started. When it comes to firearms, there are several categories, but in general, I'm going to generalize into basically two of them. You have the handguns and then you have the long guns. But for the sake of the video, we'll try to simplify, and as we go along and as you learn more, you can realize that there are several categories within those subcategories. So anything, of course, that you can hold in your hand, typically it's a handgun. In this counter, we have two examples of typical handguns. A pistol or handgun, this because I hold it in my hand, I don't need to put it in my shoulder to fire it. So a handgun, right, this one is a more modern one. A revolver is also a handgun because it's also fitting in your hand, or you only need your hand to operate it without any support on your shoulder. Revolvers have cylinders, and some of them, the cylinders pop out. Again, this is not a deep dive into revolvers, but some, to load them, you tilt it to open the cylinder, you release the cylinder to the side and you can load the cartridges. Or some of them, the cylinder is fixed, it doesn't come out, but you have a port, a chamber that you press aside and load them. We'll talk more about revolver in another video where we'll talk about the proper terminology. But this is another handgun, in this case a Glock 45. A typical handgun that is not a revolver will have a magazine. The magazine feed the firearm its ammunition. Typically you load an ammunition into a magazine. I used to call them bullet because I grew up saying, oh, bullet, here are the bullets. However, the bullet is really one part of the ammunition. We'll talk about that more later on. So magazine in the firearms, you have a slide, you have a frame, you have a trigger assembly, which we all know the trigger, and then you have a barrel, which is usually where the ammunition, the projectile comes out of after you press a trigger. All the guns that I will showcase in this series are semi-automatic guns. Glock 45 9x19mm with a red dot. So what I forgot to mention, most pistol will look like this. You have what's called iron sights, where the sights are mostly metal, but they can also be made of plastic. However, what is referred to iron sight or fixed sights is because you have the sights belong to the slide and they are dots based. So you typically have a dot that's fixed and mounted to the sight. However, nowadays it's becoming more and more popular to have a red dot or some type of additional optic device mounted on top of the slide. In this case, this one is outfitted with a Vortex Venom. This is an HK VP9 Heckler & Koch with a different magazine release button. Most American design, American based magazine buttons are right here. European guns, you'll find them, or other guns, you'll find them here for the German, and some of them have a button here at the bottom for Italian, like Beretta and things like that. So don't always assume a magazine release will be right here. It can be somewhere here or down below or even back here, depending on the gun manufacturer. But For the sake of the video, HKV P9. This is a Colt single action Army 38 special, one of the older one in this little collection of mine. Shoots 38 caliber. And this is a Ruger single 6 Blackhawk model, 22 caliber, very fun, good plinking pistol, revolver. See. Of course, moving now to rifles. So rifles are aka long guns. So for the sake of the video, I'm going to refer to as rifles. However, the better term will be, the better categorization will be long guns. This is a Ruger 1022, which is a very popular classic rifle. Mostly long guns or rifle will have a stock, something you have to put on your shoulder, on your body to fire it. And typically you will then use two hands and the shoulder, so 3 points of contact to kind of usually fire a rifle or a long gun. So this is a 1022 Ruger. It fires a 22 caliber ammunition. It also has, real quick, and of course hard to do on this table, but it has a magazine. The Ruger 1022 has got a bolt that you release, and when you fire, the bolt slides back and fires a cartridge around through the chamber. So most rifle or long guns, one of the main particularities is they will have a long barrel. I'm not going to get into the short barrel rifle and things like that in this video. However, typically a rifle has a longer barrel than a handgun, much longer. You're thinking about handguns, typically will go from 3-inch to 6-inch, but a rifle will be in the 12, 14-inch, 16-inch barrel. Now, legally, the firearm regulation considers 16-inch minimum the length of a rifle, and then you get into having a rifle that has a shorter barrel and things like that. But just remember, long guns, stock, long barrel. Another long gun, I should say, shotgun. Many of you probably know what a shotgun is. You've grown up with a shotgun. So for example, shotguns like this one, this is a Remington Wingmaster Model 870. They use a larger shot shell ammunition, which have pellets and buckshots and various kind, but the ammunition is quite large. It's it's very unique looking, which I will show you in another section of the video. But the shotgun like this one, you're looking at a 20-inch or plus barrel, right? Very long, and definitely a stock. You definitely have to shoulder it. And this one is a pump action shotgun because it uses this mechanism of pumping the next round from a magazine tube here, where you load the ammunition by inserting them there. And when you pump it, it picks up, it drops around there, and it pushes it and ready to fire. So shotgun are also type of long guns. Typically, when you want to talk about military-based firearms, this is AR-15 type M4, more civilian-based, of a rifle, military rifle, 16-inch barrel. It has a stock that's in this case collapsible, that you can adjust based on your length of arms. It has a rail in which you can mount an optics, but it usually also has a rear sight and a fixed sight in the front. So this is a fixed sight, which in this case it's also part of the gas system. This is a this is a Bushmaster Model XM15. And this one has a little special device, but it takes this kind of magazines that are inserted and released here. Another rifle, because I do like foreign and European based firearms, this is an AK-47. In this case, this one is a Zastava M70, a Z-Paps M70, which is another rifle. So 16-inch barrel. In this case, this one looks a little weird because it's got a grenade launcher muzzle device, but same thing. It has a stock, a grip, a trigger assembly. In this case, red dot, which happens to be a Trigicon ACOG for 762 by 39, older one. Between this one and this one, besides the origin and the look and the functionality, the operations make the firing mechanism is different. This is a direct impingement where there's a gas tube that relies on the explosion from the ammunition to then push the round out, eject the previous round, and load another one through the gas, and a charging handle and a bolt assembly. This one is called a piston driven gun. So this one has a piston, which is a long rod that moves in and out. We'll talk more about that when we go into the rifle. And this one is direct impingement, no piston, and the gas just cycles through a tube. Again, I'm oversimplifying right now because we will go deeper into rifle in another video. So talking about ammunition, we will also talk about magazine, because those two go together if you're thinking about firearms. Most of the time they go together. So before we go into the rabbit hole of ammunition, a caliber represents the diameter of a barrel, the inside diameter of the barrel, which is also typically how you can refer to the size of ammunition, right? So if you're hearing someone say a 9mm, that's because the barrel diameter inside has a 9mm diameter, and that projectile, which is the top part here, will go through that hole. So you want to make sure you use the right ammunition for the firearm that you have, which sounds obvious, but sometimes people make mistake. So I'm going to show some examples based on what some of the guns I showed you earlier. So we will go again, there will be another video around ammunition. So this is just high level. There's tons of calibers out there. I don't even know half of them. Maybe I know a third. I don't know. So just know that you could talk ammunitions and calibers all day long, but we'll talk basics. Based on what I showed earlier, I wanted to show you the magazine. So based on that, what we looked at some handguns. We had some we had a Glock 45. This is a typical magazine of a handgun. In this case, a 6R pistol. The magazine will contain sometimes 8 if you're looking at 1911 or things that are slim profile, 8 to 10 rounds, sometimes all the way to 21, really, and then 33 or 30 because they get really long. But just know that the magazine contains the ammunition, which is used to which is shot out of the firearm. So the magazine feeds the firearm. Remember this magazine feeds the firearms. Typically handgun magazine, this is a magazine for a rifle, but that shoots 22 caliber. So it looks big, but it has actually just a smaller part to shoot the 1022. This is a magazine for the 1022 rifle, which takes 22 caliber ammunition, which is this one. One of the smallest popular ammunition you can find is the 22. There are other ammunition that are very small as well, but we're talking about things that are typically basic, popular. This is a 22 caliber ammunition, and it goes to a magazine like this, in this case, just because of the firearm. So again, magazine vary in shape and form and size, depending on the manufacturer. This is an AK magazine, in this case AK-47 762 by 39 magazine, which is this cartridge right here, and then it feeds like this. So press down. Typically on the rifle magazine, you will just put the ammunition and press straight down. On the pistol, however, typically you have to slide it in and push it, slide it sideways, because they are narrower. So the ejection port, well, not the ejection port, the chambering port is narrower. So they're staggering inside the magazine. They are staggering on top of each other. But the top part of the magazine is narrow. So you have to do one round at a time. On the rifles, it's wider, and you can then push straight down one at a time. You still have to load them one at a time. This is another 762 magazine, but for an AR looking platform rifle. As you can see, the rounds are staggered, one on top of the other, but side by side, kind of. in an alternative position. This is another AK magazine from the AK I showed you. And these are typically what they call standard mag, which are typically the popular AR-15 M4 type magazine. They all kind of look like this, but they all fit an AR-15 type rifle. So this one is metal, this one is plastic, different design, different manufacturer, but for the same farm. Typically these are 30 round magazine, because in the States you can have 30 round magazine. There's a lot of controversies associated with the capacity of a magazine on a rifle, due to mostly because of the violence and the horrible crimes people are committing with rifles and guns these days. So that's kind of give you an idea of a variety of magazines. But again, this is not all the magazine that exist out there, but I wanted to show you based on what I've shown earlier. Now it's not of, just to educate ourselves. It's, if you have made that mistake, hopefully this video will help you correct it. You heard me refer to all these as magazine. I don't have a clip here. These are all magazine. This is a clip. And I think I had one loose. This is a clip, and this is a clip. If you were referring to these as clips, you should probably stop. The magazine feeds the firearms, the clip feeds the magazine. Now, in this case, this clip can feed a rifle. This is for an SKS. But a clip is usually a metallic object that has the ammunition slide or insert into it in order to feed the magazine or to load directly into a rifle. But this is not a clip. This is a clip. This is another kind of clips. Metal feeding a magazine or feeding a rifle directly. Ammunition types. Again, this is just barely touching the surface. The smaller ones typically are for the handguns. The bigger ones are for the rifle, but not necessarily, because you can have pistol that shoot rifle-like ammunition. This is a 7.62 by 39. I'm going to start from bigger to small in this case. The ammunition is the whole thing. The bullet is just the part that's on the front that goes out. The casing is the part that contains the powder that will explode in order for the bullet to go out. Typically, for the what's called center fire cartridge, you have a primer, which is that little circle you see here. When you press that trigger, the firing pin, the little piece of metal that hit the ammunition, will strike this, causing a little explosion that's built into a powder in this primer, which will then ignite the big powder that's in the casing, and it's that force and explosion that pushes the bullet out. So big bullet, 7.62 by 39, not the biggest, just the big one on this side. This is a bullet this is a 300 blackout that is very similar in size than a 5.56 or 223, which this one is a 5.56 223 for AR type platform. Very similar, so you can see how, depending on the origin and the size, 7.62 by 39, 300 blackout, also known as the 7.62 by 35. The designation is in the matrix system or the standard system. So NATO ammunitions are usually referring millimeters, and all the other ammunitions are referring to inches. So 2.223 versus 5.56 millimeter. Similar ammunition, just depending on which part of the world that was originating from. The 300 blackout, 5.56, 7.62 by 39. Then you have more 7.62 by 39 rounds here. Then handgun ammunition. Now, one of the particularities, these all have copper jacketed ammunition, sometimes also referred to as ball ammunition. They're rounded on the top rounded on the edge like this one. This is a 380, a steel case. You can have steel cases, you can have brass, you can have mixture of mostly steel, just painted a little green, and then you have brass ammunition, brass casing. When you say brass, they refer to the casing, the part that again contains the powder. Most gun range will not allow steel case ammunition, especially on handgun. Some gun range, because of the pandemic, it became very difficult to be picky on the type of ammunition. So on the AK rounds, some gun will allow you to have the steel AK casing, but refer to your gun range. I'm not speaking for every range out there. These are handguns ammunition based on what I showed you. This is a 9mm. This is a 380. This is a 22, although I did not show 380 handgun. 22 is what's called a rimfire ammunition. It doesn't have a primer. So the whole entire rim is ignited, and the same thing, explosion, bullet comes out. In this case, the 22 is a tiny bullet. It's smaller. However, in diameter, speaking strictly of diameter, the 5.56 or AR-15 type ammunition have about the same diameter than a 22. Another main thing to notice, this is a 38 special, like a revolver shoot, like the single army revolver shoots. And this is another 9mm. So 9mm ball ammo is a round ammo, also called a full metal jacket. These are jacketed hollow point. The reason you see a major difference is because typically if you go to a gun store and you see a box like this, it costs $25. And then you see a box like this, it costs $20. This will be your training ammunition because they are just rounded like that, and they're just meant to go through paper or whatever target and just continue. These will be your defensive ammunition because they are meant and designed based on the speed, the powder, and the bullet design. They're meant to break and fragment and cause damage to stop a threat. So I don't want to talk too much about that, but just know the difference, right? Typically they will come in a box of 20 or less, 25 at the most, and these will come for target and practice. They will be 50 round boxes. So again, this was just trying to share my basic knowledge around type of firearms. I will make a series in each of the categories. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. I try to release a video every week, typically around the end of the week, Fridays or Thursdays. If you already know all about this, share it to some people who do not know if you're tired of answering their questions. But again, my goal was to kind of help set the tone and provide a little foundation. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay safe.